ao Seminário Internacional sobre o Sistema de Educação da Finlândia, promovido pelo Colégio Rio Branco em parceria com a Embaixada da Finlândia.
It's a great pleasure to be here today and see so many of you present here. Professor Rossi was very kind in introducing Finnish education and telling a bit of background of Finnish education and maybe the story of Finland, as we say. Story of Finland is quite a long one, actually. I'm going to tell a bit of Finnish history and background of Finnish education quite briefly. Then a bit of the PISA results, not very much in detail, but as Professor Rossi said already, then introduce some of the characteristics of our system. Time is short, I can't go into details, but what I would very much like to do is to give you some sort of overall picture where we stand right now, what are the challenges we are facing, and how did we end up to the point where we are right now. So to start with, I have a full set of transparencies, but I'm using only some of them at the moment. But I think the slides are available later on for everybody who is interested. It's a more comprehensive set of slides. But as said, I'm here today to highlight some of the characteristics, not to go into details. I'm extremely happy to come from the country where education is considered extremely important. I would be also, being a civil servant serving in the Ministry of Education, I would be more than happy to say that we can take some credit of that, but unfortunately that's not so. It's just part of our culture, it's part of our history, and it's a result of very, very, very long-standing development work, and also it reflects the certain moments of Finnish history. We actually changed entirely our education system in the 70s. We can even say this is a sort of revolution in education. The discussion started in late 60s when we still had in education sort of a two-track system where everybody started the education and it was comprehensive education for first 4 years, but after that you had to make a choice. Either you went to the education which was carrying fees and ending up to the academic career if you wish so, or you ended up to the track where you practically, it was very hard to continue your studies, maybe to vocational training or studies, or just to do some manual labor. So the division was made already at the age of 10, 11. There was a huge political debate in Finland, and that's very rare in Finland because Finnish politics are extremely boring compared to Brazil. But still, after this, the topic of discussion was, should we introduce comprehensive, equal education system to every child in Finland? Or should we give still benefits for those who are coming better off families and ignore those who don't have such a good social background? Well, the discussion was very heavy. The most conservative parties and right-wing parties were blaming that the whole education system will be completely ruined. This will ruin quality. This will ruin the future of Finland. However, the winds of change won that competition, won that discussion. And at the end, as a result, the Finnish education was changed completely. We established a system where we had comprehensive 9 years basic education for everybody, free of charge for everybody. And also Finnish university system and secondary education was changed not so much in the 70s, but it has changed throughout the years. And still one of the fundamental principles in Finnish education is that education must be free of charge. Even the universities in Finland are not carrying any tuition fees. We do have some private schools in Finnish basic education. About 2%, a bit more than 2% of Finnish schools are private. But still, they don't carry any fees. They are subsidized with public funding. One of the criticisms against this change was that it must be extremely expensive. However, Finland today is devoting only 6% of the GNP to education, which is rather low amount of money. It's much lower than in US. It's even lower than, I know you have some plans in Brazil to increase the GNP share to 10 or 12%. In Finland, as a result, the education system, which is provided free of charge to everybody, is not that expensive. It's just the question of the manner how you organize it. And in Finland, I think it's quite easy to introduce new ways to organize things. So after this huge political debate in the 70s, Finns are also very pragmatic people, extremely pragmatic, up to the boring as well. So after the discussion was taking place, everybody said that, okay, system is changed now. It would be harmful to change the system again in the short run. So we kept the decision. Even the conservative governments, even no matter whether we have had right-wing governments or left-wing governments after the 70s, everybody has stuck to the basic changes we made in the 70s. Of course, we have made shifts. We have made some development activities. Like in the 70s, we call like in 90s, I'm sorry. We call early 90s the period of decentralization in Finland, in Finnish education. In early 90s, we decided, for instance, to get some more liberties and power to local level, to municipalities and to schools themselves. And also we decided to get rid of the school inspectors. We haven't had any school inspectors in Finland for 20 years. We got rid of the pre-inspection of study material used in schools. So the schools and teachers and municipalities have been free to choose their own study material. The government is not controlling. And that was, of course, extremely difficult decision in a government level. It's always very difficult for the administration to say, okay, we trust, we let it go. We trust that municipalities are doing their job. We have created, and we are putting a lot of effort to establish a good teacher training in Finland. And we trust that teachers are doing their job because they are well educated. I'm going to speak a bit more about teacher education, teachers' role later on. However, still, I think the changes in 70s and changes in 90s don't explain so much why education is so highly valued in Finland. Why teacher's profession is one of the most wanted professions in Finland. Only 1 out of 10 of applicants get into the teacher training in Finland. So we get best 10% of candidates for teachers to be. I think we have to go back to the 19th century, somewhere in the mid-19th century, where Finland was still part of Russia. And when Finnish language was a language of peasants, we had Swedish-speaking upper class, we had Russian-speaking administration, but there was a dream of independence in Finland. There was a dream to establish a national identity. And even Finnish national anthem was played in the beginning of this session. In the second verse of our national anthem, we speak in the future that one day Finland will flourish. One day the sound of Finland will echo around the world. So it was a dream. It was a dream to establish own country. It was a dream to establish own national identity. And in so many countries, the revolution and the dream of independence goes through violence and war and active rebellion. In Finland, Finnish guerrillas were teachers. They went to the villages. They learned people to read and write. They told that there is a possibility for independence. So teachers' role has been extremely important in Finland. And still, I think one of the most beautiful innovations in Finnish education was born at that time. I don't know if you can even guess what's the most important innovation Finland has made in education. That was the idea that the churches who were cooperating with teachers introduced the idea that you cannot get permission to get married without any basic skills without showing any basic skills in reading. So you had to be able to read to get married. Extremely good way to motivate people, by the way. I recommend it. Very simple innovation, by the way. Once again, we are pragmatic people. We believe that pragmatic solutions, or simple solutions, are always the best. Good example of Finnish culture in education. So as a result, Finland was a poor nation gaining for independence, believing that education was a solution. And also, even in 50s and 60s, before this big changes in Finnish educational administration took place, for instance, we introduced free school meals in Finland, a warm meal for each child in early 50s already. Nowadays, we see that free meals are sort of a part of the social services in schools. But at that time, in 50s, Finland was an extremely poor country. We were among one of the poorest countries in Europe. And children were hungry, really. So it was very same situation as you are having in favelas now. And still, we had a dream that one day Finland will flourish. Finland will take its place. And once again, we believed that the solution was education, knowledge. Finland is a small country with very, very sparse natural resources. We have a bit of forest, fine, and few inhabitants. We have 5.5 million people living in Finland today. But we cannot lose any human capacity. If we want to flourish, and I would like to show you this. It's not only PISA results where Dr. Rossi referred, but Finland today is doing pretty well in quite a number of international comparisons linked to the human capital or linked to the education. So we had a dream in 50s and 60s when we were still a poor nation, and we changed our system. It took us some 40 years to gain this, but it was possible. But as said, we cannot lose any human brain, any human talent. We have to get them integrated to the system. And this is something which is very strong in our education policy. Now, just to give you a glimpse what is the situation now, so about 80% of Finns are having at least post-compulsory qualifications, about a bit less than 75% are having at least vocational or higher educational qualifications, which is quite good. We are, of course, ambitious, and we want to Finland to be even more educated by 2020. That's one of the goals where the government is aiming today. In Finnish education policy, faith and trust play a key role. I told you already, mentioned already the word trust. And that's very strong in Finnish system. We are decentralizing, and at the same time, when we are decentralizing, we believe that if we are trusting and supporting all levels, teachers, schools, municipalities, that's the way how we get the system work. If we are creating extensive control in education or other branches of society, it doesn't help us very much to motivate the teachers and schools to give their best. And on the other hand, it takes a lot of resources, human resources as well as financial resources. So the Finnish education system is pretty simple. We have government level, we have municipalities, and we have schools and teachers. So once again, pragmatic people. We would love to keep it simple. I already stressed the free education, equal opportunities, of course, as said. It's one of the key words in Finnish education. Another characteristics of Finnish education is that we don't want any what we call dead ends in the system. Meaning that when we are, let me see here, when we are moving to one level to another level to education, it should be possible. So no matter if you are choosing the vocational education after your 9 years compulsory basic education, you must be free to move to the higher levels, to academic education as well, to polytechnics, that is universities or applied sciences, or to universities. So that's quite important, and that's also a huge motivation factor to attract young people to vocational education and training. In Finland, we see that not every child is meant for academic career, but we have to offer, and we are obliged to offer, good vocational education and training. And after that, still, there must be doors open for higher education. And teachers' role is, of course, very, very important. Just briefly describe the Finnish system. We have pre-primary education given in kindergartens, but that's mostly socializing kids. It's not actually teaching, but we are sort of supporting the socializing of the children and giving them some sort of a motivation to learn and forming the motivation for later learning. Then we have pre-primary year, 1 year, just this, it's not compulsory, it's optional. It's given normally either in kindergartens or schools. No, I don't have now the red one, but it's the lowest part of the picture. So about 98% are participating to the pre-primary year, although it's not compulsory. The compulsory basic education starts in Finland only at age of 7. That's quite late. I'm quite often asked, why do you start so late? Why not earlier? We believe that children should be children before that. We don't expect Finnish children to be able to read or write before age of 7. So at 7, we start 9 years compulsory and comprehensive basic education. The same core curricula is given nationwide. The same core curricula, which is just a skeleton of curricula, it's given by the government, but the schools and municipalities are finalizing the curricula. So the very final curricula is made in schools, together with principal and teachers. So there's a huge variation of curriculas in Finland. Every school is having a bit different curricula. In public sector, as said, almost 98% of Finnish schools, as said, are public ones. And also the private ones are expected to follow the same core curriculum. After 9 years basic education, youngsters are having 2 basic possibilities. And just maybe some words of basic education at this stage before we move to the upper secondary level. So Finnish basic education, as said, is free of charge, and we wish to encourage children to go to the school next door. And I would say that practically all children are taking the nearest school in the neighborhood, no matter whether the parents are academically educated or if we are speaking about poor families. And we have strong belief that the school next door is the best choice. And maybe this is the stage where I should say some words about PISA, where Dr. Rossi referred. As said, Finland has been at top of the PISA survey for 4 times by now. That is the OECD survey which is measuring the performance of 15-year-old school leavers. And we have been doing rather well in quality-wise, so that is why Finnish education system is often said to be best in the world. we are a bit modest to say so, but it seems to me that we are doing well in international rankings. And in PISA, but however, in PISA, of course, I'm quite often speaking that we have sort of a triangle in Finnish education, and that in regard of PISA as well. So PISA is, of course, measuring quality of education, skills of learning as well. However, it's also measuring the equity between schools and students. So for us in Finland, I would say that even more important than being on the top on the quality in basic education is the fact that the equity factor in PISA shows that the school-to-school variation, differences between schools in Finland, are still the smallest in the world. So no matter whether we are speaking about school in elite area in Helsinki, in capital of Finland, or if we are speaking about rural school, somewhere maybe in the forest in eastern, close to the Russian border, or up in a Lapland in the middle of huge piles of snow, where the average temperature in winter is some -25, -30. So the performance is very close to the school in the elite area. Of course, there are differences between schools, but still in Finland, the differences are the smallest still in the world. Why I'm saying still is that we are extremely concerned that this situation won't remain. In last PISA, we already saw that the situation wasn't so good as in a previous one, although we are still topping up in the records. So in PISA, we are extremely happy that we are able to produce good quality spread very evenly throughout the country. And this is why people are trusting that there is a good school in the neighborhood. So this is something we are expected, that the parents should trust us that we are able to produce good education in neighborhood schools. And also the third corner in PISA is that we are able to produce this evenly spread quality in average costs. Finnish education system, as said, it's not very expensive. It's much cheaper actually than in very many other countries. And this, in these days where the economic crisis is pressing us all, it's of course very, very important. We have extremely low dropout rate in Finland in basic education. 99.7% of Finns are completing their basic education. So the dropout rate is only 0.3. And we are quite happy about this. Class repetition is also very low, about 2%. And why is that? That is because the Finnish education system and teachers are not so much devoting their attention to the good pupils, but we are trying to support and keep in the system the weakest ones. With remedial education, part-time remedial education is very, very much applied in Finland, and we are trying to catch those who might have problems in the future and keep them in the system. Maybe I will say something about teachers' role at this stage. Oops. In Finland, of course, the teacher is the first person in pupil's life. We are strongly believers that what is happening in the classroom is the most important. So all teachers in Finland must have master's degree. In grades 1 to 6 in pedagogics, and in grades 7 onwards in the subject they are teaching, plus about 1 year additional studies in pedagogics. So master's degree is the only degree and only test we expect to be a qualified teacher in Finland. Once again, very simple system. But good teachers in Finland are also, it's not enough to train good teachers and master's level teachers. To keep them motivated, we have to give them a chance to apply their skills in the classroom. So the teachers are planning the classes, choosing the methods, how they are teaching, and they are responsible for assessing the pupils' performance. We don't have any national tests in Finnish education system, in basic education. We are not great believers in testing. We are more interested in learning. And it's very helpful for our teachers not to concentrate all the time how to make tests and how to prep pupils to survive and pass the national tests. But they can plan the teaching individually, meeting the needs of individual pupils, and test the class as the teachers wish, without to be bound to any prepping up to national tests, which is, of course, it makes the teacher's profession quite different. Teachers are, as said, having strong autonomy in Finnish education. What I would like to say at the very end is that, first of all, before going to challenges, Finnish system is sort of full of paradoxes. We are a bit like the wild west in a sense that the Finnish system is very decentralized. Every school is having different curricula. The teachers are in charge of what's happening in the classrooms. We have very little national control, no school inspectors or whatsoever, but still the results are evenly spread throughout Finland. So I'm not having, and that's the stage where I'm always asked why. I think one reason is that we are putting so much effort on teachers. We are not starting on the top of controlling the system, but we are trying to support and see that what's happening in a classroom is something where we can also make very even quality happen and come true. And this is maybe one of the interesting parts of the education. And as said, we are not great friends of testing. We believe learning instead of testing. And that's quite important. Another paradox in Finnish education system that we are having the shortest school days among the world. We don't believe that quality corresponds quantity. So that's pretty much Finnish concept. Finnish pupils are not doing very much homework. We don't have any full-time schools. The normal school day varies from 4 hours to 7 hours, depending which grade you are. But still, I think the quality and what's happening in the classroom it could be reached with competent teachers in a very much shorter time than normally. Briefly at the end, some challenges. Aging society. Finland is facing, of course, some. We are one of the most rapidly aging societies, so we need our education system to function very efficiently and produce also good quality human capacity to labor market as well. Sounds very technical, but still. Growing social disparities due to economic situation. That's the challenge which every country is facing. Migration, we have increasing migration might change the picture in Finland as well. Finland used to be a very homogeneous country in the 90s. We are not it anymore, and that is one of the challenges posed to the education system. And of course, gender disparities. Dr. Rossi referred that this is maybe not the best balance of gender equality here in the podium. This is actually a very Finnish situation. Girls do better. So, sorry, gentlemen, I'm extremely sorry. My apologies. But this is very also reflects Finnish system, and one of the problems as well, because we are very concerned of boys, and the boys are threatened in constant threat to drop out in the system. So, for the reason or the other, and this is something, by the way, we see in PISA. Finnish system is very even, except in one dimension. Girls are extremely better than boys. So, of course, being ladies from Finland, we can say we are the best in the world, because if they are the highest education system and the ladies are doing well, sorry for Finnish men. Oh, we don't have, well, one Finnish man, sorry. Sorry for that. But still, I wonder how well Finland could manage in PISA results if we have only ladies. All right, but seriously, this is a problem in Finnish system. The boys drop out easily, and we have introduced some programs to keep the children in the system. But one this is pretty much what I wanted to say. We have some specific problems. We are reducing group size in basic education. And of course, digital learning is one of the challenges we all are finding, how to use it. In general, I would say that Finns are not so keen in using technology, or let's say we are using technology a lot, but it's not that important. Because technology is just a tool for education. It's not the content. Content is the one which is in the key of the development of education. The technology is something which might be used or might not be used, but it doesn't actually, it's not a key factor of quality and boosting of quality in Finland. This is, I'm very open for questions, as said, and we hopefully have some time also after this meeting to respond your questions. As you said, I'm concentrating on basic education, and my colleagues are more elaborating with vocational training and higher education as well. But thank you. As you can see, we are very passionate. I'm not sure if the Finn can be passionate in speaking about education. I know they are friends of Formula as well in Brazil, and if you have seen Kimi Räikkönen interviewed, I imagine it's difficult to imagine passionate Finn. But if we are passionate in something, that's education, and we love to speak about education, and I'm sure you will share this with my colleagues as well. Thank you.